Hi everyone, back with another video. This is week 20 of the 52-week project. And now I'm going to get started with this. This video is going to take a little bit of time. It's going to be a little tedious with some of the things I do. But hopefully we can get through it painlessly and the video won't turn out to be an hour long. Okay, this picture here is of a well, that's a titmus over here on the left, and in the back here, what you can really see is the wing and two little talons sticking at the bottom of the feeder there. That was a house finch, and this guy right here, which only catching the back half of, taken me about 2 to almost 3 years to attract it to the yard, but that is a indigo bunting. I got some other pretty cool pictures of it, but in this video I'm only using it for the 52-week project, which is fast shutter. And the shutter speed here, you can see, is 1/250th of a second, which isn't that fast, but it was fast enough to capture the bird in flight, and give it a little motion blur of the wings. Also shooting at ISO 1600, so it is a relatively noisy image, but it was a pretty dark day. It doesn't look like it from here, only because I had to change the white balance. It was actually raining outside. It was a pretty crappy day. It's amazing what the white balance can do. So, all right, let's get started with the video here. The first thing I wanted to do was fix the color tone in here, because to me it is just a little too yellow. I mean, it's nice and all, but it kind of it warms the image up, but I kind of don't want to take away from the real subject here, which is the birds, and I think that the color just isn't really adding to it. So I'm going to turn down the color temperature here around 5,000 or so, which turns it kind of blue, but it also deepens the greens a little bit. Personally, I think so. Got my phone a little too close here. I'm getting some feedback. I'll move that. Alright, next thing, I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit. It did look a little bit dark, so I think that looks good. And let's a little contrast to it. Get some blacks in there. That's alright. And this kind of got a little blown out in there. That's the little sunflower seeds. Actually, that's what this bird was actually eating. I think that's what helped it get to the yard. That, and I played the call for a little while too. A few days out of the week, I would play the call for maybe 5 minutes and come back in. But okay, I'm going to take those highlights and I'm going to move them all the way down. As you can see, it's affecting this area in here, so move that all the way down. And I'm going to increase the shadows to actually bring out some detail in there, even though it's not going to be much. Just a little bit. And then the white, I'm going to move up, which will brighten the overall image. Maybe a little more. And then the blacks, I want to bring it down to add some rich blacks to it. And I think that looks a little harsh, but I like how rich that looks. And I think it is a bit too saturated here, so I'm going to actually turn down the vibrance, which will get rid of those other colors. Like I said, it looks a little grayed there, but I'm just going to bring the saturation up here just a little bit. And 'cause I don't want to draw attention to the background. I want this little bird. He's really my subject here. Um, Obviously, we have the other bird in here. He's kind of looking out at me. But this bird really is my subject, and unfortunately, I didn't catch the bird's face or anything. But it does have this very bright blue on the back there. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump into that HSL grayscale, and if you watch any of the other videos, you know that I kind of like these sliders in here. And you have a lot of control of the individual colors in the image. And I'm going to start off by just jacking those blues all the way up in the saturation. And you can see that really brings out the blue there. And there's aquas also that lies in here, so I'm going to bring that in. If I go all the way blue, it brings out too much attention to this pole. So it does add a nice color, I think, to the bird, but it's a little too much. So I'm just going to back it off a little bit. I'll say right around there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to do a little preview. You see how much it really pushes out the colors in the bird there. And you got to remember, these colors are already in the image. I'm just bringing out a little bit more. And I'm going to go back into the luminance tab here, and I'm going to make those blues darker. And I think that might be a little too much there. I think that looks pretty good. Let's see what it looks like when I zoom in on it here. As you can see, it's a pretty noisy image, ISO 1600, which it's not too bad considering it's ISO 1600. Alright, I'm going to go into the detail tab over here, and we're going to try and get rid of some of this noise. Obviously, smoothing it out a little bit, you're going to lose a little detail, but this looks pretty good. In this case, I think it'll be all right. I mean, I don't want to make it look like it's a painting or anything. I think that's just way too smooth. And as you can see, you lose all detail in there. So I'm gonna move it around 30, a little less, 28. I think that looks pretty good there. Significant difference, as you can see. And I think that looks pretty good. Alright, I'm going to open the image up now in Photoshop. And this is the part where it's going to get a little tedious. One thing I didn't like about the image, I think I did a pretty decent job of shooting on the rule of thirds, as you can see here, bringing up my grid here. This pole here rides right on a third line, and the bunting is actually extremely close to running on the one of the third lines, or the power points in the rule of thirds there. So it doesn't have to be exact, but very close is usually something that's appealing to the eye. I'll turn that off. But one of the things that I didn't like is this pole. It's very distracting, and I kind of want to get rid of it. I think in the future now, when I go to take some images, I'm going to move the feeder to the other side of the pole, because at the top it's actually like two shepherd's hooks, and I hung it on the far side, not thinking, more or less thinking, oh, that bush is there and the birds will have a place to hide, and, kind of like a perch for them. So I think what I'll do is I'll move it to the other side. This way I don't have to worry about going through this process again. But first thing I'm going to do is duplicate this layer, and Control J, and then I'm going to right click on it and rasterize the layer. So I want to do all my editing on this layer here. And unfortunately you can't do that on a smart object layer. Got my eraser tool on here. Let's just the hand tool. Go to the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to start off and zoom in here a bit, and going to click fairly close here. Let's see, right there, there. Hold spacebar. Here, here. I'll hold the spacebar again. Finish off my double click. Finish that off. Back off just a little bit so I can see what's going on here. And I'm going to go to the patch tool. Where is it now? There it is. And my adaptation is set to very loose. The patch is for content aware, and I want to sample all the layers. Sample all layers really doesn't matter right now because we're not using multiple. The background is the same as the layer we're working on, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to drag this over to here and let go. And Photoshop works its magic a little bit there. And I don't like the way that one came out. Let's change the adaptation to medium and see how that works. And I think that worked a lot better. Let's try loose. Let's see what happens with that. Well, let's move it up to very strict. I think that one actually worked out pretty good. So I'm going to deselect here. Control D. And that's not too bad. Let me get the clone stamp tool. Just select it there. And I'm just going to pick a little random area, holding the Alt key and clicking. Say, I'll start right here. Just going to click, kind of get rid of that line there, and then click an area from here. Try and get rid of some of that line. I'm going to try and pick some random areas. I don't want to have the same thing. I'm going to click on aligned so it stays, the crosshair will stay aligned with what it is that I'm clicking. So now that I'm up here, I got a little shaded area as well. Let's see. Alright, I'm going to go back to the polygonal, the patch tool here, and I'm just going to draw a little square around that and drag that over. Actually, I think my square is a little too big. Let's make that a little smaller. And drag that over to there. And that looks pretty good. Go back to the clone stamp tool. And we'll stamp in a couple of spots here, here. And I definitely don't like this repeating pattern over here, so I'm going to sample that. Click there. And let's get rid of that too. Same thing now along here. I'm going to try and get rid of the pole here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off right at this point. So it looks like the pole's actually going behind it. If you don't know that the pole is there, it's going to be very difficult to see it. And luckily we have this repeating patterns and all this randomness going on in here with the seed that's in it. Alright, so I'm going to Alt click here and click. And then Alt click on this side and draw that way. And there. click here. It's very helpful with the preview. It helps you know that you're actually lining up in the right spot. And click there. Like I said, this is kind of tedious and it's a little time consuming, so I think you're kind of getting the idea here. Now I'm going to click here, sample that, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn off aligned now. So it's always going to sample from the same point. I'm trying to make it as straight as possible. Like the way that one came out. Okay. And now you just click in a random location. And I'll try and get rid of some of these just by adding, like I said, random spots in there. And once again, if you're not looking for it, you won't notice it. Click there. Now let's just add that all the way in. Make it look like a little rim there. Okay, back off. I think that's looking pretty good so far. Alright, now I'm going to do the same thing up here. Now if you notice, I'm trying to put it on the actual line here, so when I move over, you can see in the preview. I'm just going to continue along, so it looks like a line. I don't like the way that came out, but I'll go from this side maybe. And a little bit over here. That looks pretty good. And click up here. Actually, I'm going to click there. Relatively close to where it was. Okay. And I'll try here. This way, continue over that way. It's just areas that are noticeable like this that you have to make sure are somewhat accurate. You know, kind of tricks the eye into believing that it belongs there that way. And you know, this isn't the subject. The birds are the subject. So most people aren't going to look at the feeder and say, "Oh, that's the same seed that's here is over here." You know, that nobody's really going to notice that. All right, enough blabbering. I'm going to go back and make a circle around this again with the patch tool, and just move it over to a open area. And I think it does a great job with that. Let's see, it's pretty flawless actually. Go back to the clone tool again and work my way over. Start here first actually, and just put a couple little lines in there, and then start from this side. Let it just fade into it a little bit there. And here, and try and continue go. It's a little harder because it's kind of on a slant there. And I'll just add some dark lines in there. And here. And I'll try and continue this down just a bit. And maybe continue this just a little bit inside here as well. No, I didn't like that one. Kind of went upward. A sample there. Oops. Okay, and now we'll go back to the patch tool again and make a selection of this area and sample from over here again. I don't know what that was. Looks like I got a message here. Control D. A lot of stuff running here. Now the toolbar won't go away. That's great. Oh well. Now what do we got to do? Now I lost my train of thought here. Okay, I'm gonna make this line continue up, so this goes into a little tiny pyramid here. So I'm going to use my clone stamp tool again and sample on the line here. Try and get it somewhat close to the pole there. And this preview is awesome because you can actually see where you're putting your line now. And I think that should be good right around there. And now I'll sample from this side here and build my way right up to the top there and here. And try and bring this as far up as I can. Samples here. Make my brush a little bit smaller. As you can see, I'm not worrying about this right now. We're going to fix that in a minute. I'm going to sample here. There we go. And I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. And I didn't want to do that. That seems to be a little too dark for that spot. Let's try our patch tool again here. Very close, go around that. And pull. I'm going to try that. And then we'll put the adaptation to loose. And that's not too bad. We can touch it up a little bit here and there with the clone stamp tool. Make that a little larger. And I'm not liking how that came out. There we go. It doesn't look too bad. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look too bad. I say it's believable because we're not going to be zoomed in on this part. We're really not paying attention to this part over here either. Like I said, the subject is the birds, so I do want to straighten this out a little bit. Oh, straighten it. I made it worse. There, and put one right there. Okay, and now to fix this over here, we're going to go to our history brush, and we're just going to paint back over with our history brush. But I'm not going to paint onto the top. I'm just going to paint right up to it. And it's okay that it's a soft edge. It's really not too bad. I mean, if you actually make it a little easier and get it more accurate, what you do is you click once and make the brush a little bigger, just to cover that area. Maybe right there. And click once here, hold the shift key, and click again, and it'll draw a straight line on there. And I'll do the same thing here, and then click up here, make a straight line. And that looks alright to me. I'm going to fix this one part with the stamp tool, make this a little smaller. I'm going to fix this little bit right here in the middle. There we go. And now we'll go down to the bottom over here and do the same thing. Clone stamp tool. No, I'm sorry, the art history, or the history brush. And click here, hold the shift key, and click there. Makes a nice straight line. Touch that up a little bit. And there you go. Now it looks like the pole is behind it. And you know, if you really looked into it, you could say, oh, this line doesn't go, and that kind of folds there, and they get a couple of repeating seeds here, and this is all repeating, and the eye's not going to notice that. I mean, if you wanted to take the extra time, you can touch it up and pick some extra areas and throw them in there, different seeds and stuff in there, and clean that up a little bit. But for me, this seems to be okay. The only other thing I want to do is create a new layer. Oh, that's the wrong button. That was Shift F2 by the way. That changes the brightness. Shift F2 and Shift F1 will make your background darker or lighter. This is another keyboard shortcut. I'm into that's Control. Oh, that was the wrong button. Okay. I don't. Control Shift F2. There we go. That was I don't know what I just did there. Okay. I have my new layer. And I'm just going to add a vignette. Ignore this dodge and burn layer. I can't get to my buttons down on the bottom over here because for some reason this won't disappear. Anyway, now this whole video is just a big mess for me. I'm going to add a vignette. I'm forgetting what I'm doing here. All right, I'm just going to hit the brush tool. I'll leave it at 66% opacity, and I'm on a blank layer. I'm just going to darken in the edges a little bit here. It's a little bit dark, but it's alright. And normally I use my pen for this, but I'm just using a mouse for this entire edit. Okay, and I'm just going to bring the opacity down. Let's back it off a bit. I basically just want the attention to be on the birds over here. I think I might have overdone it a little bit. Just going to click here with my eraser tool. And that's it. There you go. Alright guys, I apologize for the awkwardness of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.